there was a contract awarded to Ascend Digital Solutions to carry out a rural telephony project, and there was no procurement process followed. Is that your basic concern?
Absolutely. And let me say good morning to all the listeners of Radio Gold. So the fact of the matter is that I came into information that the Nigerian cabal I have been complaining about, remember that these are the same guys who rolled out the dubious Kelny GVG project, which many civil society organizations spoke against in the name of revenue assurance. And they are the same guys who did the Smart Infraco during COVID. They hurriedly registered a company called Smart Infraco, where they claimed they were going to have all public servants work from home. The project was, as usual, shabbily executed. That contract did not also have procurement approval until when I blew the alarm, they went to the PPA for what they call ratification. That does not take away the fact that at the time they awarded the contract and started making payments, they did not have any procurement approval. Indeed, if you look at the Auditor General's report on COVID-19, Smart Infraco is indicted that they were paid without a deduction of taxes. So they owe Ghana about 1.73 million in taxes. So that has been the modus operandi of this Nigerian cabal. To put it simply, the Nigerian cabal in the communication space, who is called Philip Olaya, you can say that he is like a David Ajayi in the architectural space. The way everybody has been complaining about how every major project, since this government came to power, they asked David Ajayi to design it, from the National Cathedral to Agenda 111 to the Marine project to the new trade fair project and all of that. Except that even in the case of David Ajayi, he is a Ghanaian, and so you may want to be a bit, less outraged, even though often due process is not followed. In the case of this Nigerian kingpin, they do not follow due process. So I did write to the Public Procurement Authority on this $48 million contract. This was a letter dated 8 June 2023 requesting information on this $48 million rural telephony project. The Public Procurement Authority responded on the 30th of June 2023 and said in very clear language that they have no records about this project. Now, after I put out this letter I wrote to the PPA at a right to information request and the PPA's response, the Minister for Communications hurriedly put out a statement bearing me that she is not aware of any project being undertaken by Ascend, and that the only contract she has signed, she is aware of, is what was approved by Parliament under the Chinese Exim Bank funding, which is the rural telephony project that is to be executed, or that is being executed by two Chinese companies known as Huawei and CNCIT. Then I welcomed the challenge and put out a letter from GIFEC a letter signed by Prince Ofosu Efa, Prince Ofosu Sefa, the administrator of GIFEC, confirming that indeed there is a $48 million contract with Ascend Digital. GIFEC then subsequently put out a statement, a hurriedly written statement, which they forgot to even remove the draft. And yet they put it out with a lot of typos. You can tell that these people have just been told to hurriedly go out there and defend the indefensible. So the GIFEC statement basically says that they have checked their records and they do not recall. Can you believe that? I mean, a corporate institution, you have either written the said letter or you have not written it. And so if you haven't written it, then what it means is that probably somebody out there is faking documents from your outfit. And you should take a serious view of the matter and probably even bring in the police. But GIFEC just says they do not recall.
Do not recall?
Yes, they do not recall. It says, let me quote the second part. It says, the administrator does not recall issuing the said letter, which does not bear requisite characteristics of an official GIFEC letter with a reference number. And I'm sure they want to write typically. They said typical. There's no word like that. Typically contains other features which are lacking on the said letter. Extensive checks at the GIFEC Secretariat also indicates that there is no record of such letter being issued. So, unbelievable. The administrator does not recall. So, based on this pathetic denial from GIFEC and then from the minister, I decided on Saturday afternoon to put out at least 25 documents on this $48 million scandal. And I have now put out full details about this whole matter. And I heard you read the write-up.
Yeah.
So let's be clear. Number one, the PPA has said that they have no record of this $48 million project. What it means is that the company called Ascend is doing this project without PPA approval. Number two, the reliance on what was approved by Parliament on the 31st of March 2020. It is important to emphasize that what was approved is specific. If you look at the commercial agreement in the Hazard of 31st March 2020, the approval by Parliament is for two companies, Huawei and CNCIT, to execute the $155 million project. So 85% is funded by China Exim and 15% is funded by Exim. Now, when you have received such an approval, you cannot go and vary it and give portions to another company. Last Friday on Metro TV, I met OPK, the MP who is popularly called OPK, and he was alleging that Ascend came in through a subcontract. Now, it is important to emphasize that in the quality grain case, the courts of Ghana have ruled, and that's why, and I'm sorry to remind people about Kwame Pepre's former finance minister's incarceration. One of the reasons why he was sent to jail was that he had varied a parliamentary approval. If you want to vary a parliamentary approval, you must go back to Parliament and do an amendment to the original approval, secure an amendment to the original approval. Then in the CDB facility as well, interestingly, if you read the Hazard of 2010, it was the MPP insisting that based on the quality grain principle and all of that, any variation must require an amendment as a parliamentary amendment. So even if they want to hide under this contract, OPK was claiming that it is a CNCIT component which was handed over to Ascent Digital. That will be a major violation of our constitution and of the approval which was granted. Because you see, why in approving commercial agreements the companies are submitted to Parliament is because Parliament then carries out due diligence. Parliament wants to be sure that the companies have the competence, have the capacity, have the track record to execute the project. That is why we always insist that the companies should be brought and then Parliament will carry out due diligence. So when you have been awarded a contract that these are the two companies going to execute the project, you don't go and vary it. That is why I can understand the minister's dilemma. So if I agree that there is a contract, there is no PPA approval, so she is in trouble, she is in hot waters. If I also say that, oh, Asen went to do this as a variation, I didn't come back to Parliament for an approval, so again, I'm exposed. It's an illegality. But you see, the minister must just come clean and confess her sins. And then we allow the law to take its course. Engaging in this bravado and insults, as she's been doing all over the place, she's worsening her plight. Now, let me also bring to the fore a very interesting angle, Sana. Very, very interesting angle. So, Sana, the documents that I have put out reveal that there is another $50 million contract which Ascent Digital, partnering with Airtel Tigo, and indeed I have insiders at Airtel Tigo who are even willing to speak in any inquiry. They were told that if they want to win this contract, they must partner with Ascent Digital. So I have put out documents confirming that to win this contract, this $50 million contract, the Ministry of Communications, which Ursula leads, submitted to the World Bank documents, proof of contract attestation, that say that Ascent Digital has been executing this $48 million project. They've done such a great job. And here you see the letter that GIFEC has been trying to deny, the December 15, 2021 letter, which was part of the Airtel Tigo Ascent bid submitted to the World Bank. You see them confirming that Ascent Digital has this contract. Then there is another document from NITA also confirming that they have a contract with Smart Infraco, which is an affiliate of Ascent, and they are executing these projects in their sector. And that gives them the track record and the competence and the capacity to win this $50 million contract. So it is based on this representation or misrepresentation. Because if they claim that there is no contract, then it will mean that all these documents that they submitted to the World Bank, which I have intercepted, they lied to the World Bank. They engaged in fraudulent misrepresentation and misled the World Bank to secure this $50 million project, which is going to Ascend again. So the Ministry of Communication is in really, really hot waters. Already in the contract which has been signed by the World Bank, they make it clear that if they detect that during the procurement process there was any unethical conduct, any fraud, any misrepresentation, the $50 million contract will be cancelled. I can confirm to you that be meeting with the World Bank and making all of these documents available, bringing this fraudulent conduct, this clear misrepresentation to their attention. And it will be utterly interesting to see how the World Bank responds to this. But you see, this is a consistent pattern. If you look at the company incorporation details that I've put out, Ascent Digital was established only on the 5th of April 2019. Has absolutely no track record, no capacity. As soon as they are hurriedly incorporated, they give them a $48 million contract, which they are afraid to confirm now because of all the implications. They know it will open a Pandora's box. Then, don't forget that beyond this $48 million contract, they have also engaged in this misrepresentation at the World Bank with this entity. Now, you look at the names of those who own this Ascent Digital, and it is clear that you have this Nigerian director, Angela Onyoka, who fronts for the Real McCoy, who is Mr. Olaya. And remember that it was the same modus operandi with the Frontiers airport COVID testing as well. So you have the Real McCoy who hides behind the scenes, and then they hurriedly establish companies, and then they loot state resources. We are not going to sit and allow these foreigners, some of whom are fugitives, to come in here and collude with ministers of state and engage in this, violation of our laws, the kind of fraudulent conduct, the lack of transparency and accountability, and think that they will get away with it. We are not going to allow that. So, in summary, Sana, this really is the matter being pursued.
Interesting. But it looks like, reading from the documents, there are clear cues that such a contract exists. Well, after you put out all this document, this is still the response of the minister. And she also tweeted, "I'm still waiting for the $48 million contract I'm supposed to have signed without PP approval. That hasn't been produced yet. Ablakwa is now jumping from pillar to post. Won't dignify ignorant runs with a response." And she concludes by saying, "I have work to do. That what you're producing so far, there are cues in it, but the contract itself that you say she signed, you've not brought it. Do you have it?"
So the minister is deliberately engaging in obfuscation. You have told the World Bank that you have a contract with Ascent. Your agencies, I have produced the GIFEC letter. And you've seen the letter. It says proof of contract. Let me read the letter to the benefit of your listeners. So GIFEC is an agency under the ministry. And when you go back to my original post, I talked about the ministry awarding the contract. There's a difference between the minister herself signing a contract. Nobody has said that. We talked about awarding a contract without PPA approval. Now, you have GIFEC, to whom it may concern, proof of existing contract between Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications, GIFEC, and Ascent Digital Solutions Limited. I, Prince Ofosu, Administrator, confirms that Ascent Digital Solutions is currently executing on behalf of Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications, GIFEC, a contract for engineering, design, build, rollout, and management services, operating all aspects of mobile and backhaul network infrastructure related to a flagship rural telephony project involving cell sites in the 2016 communities. Ascent Digital Solutions Limited has been delivering these services to us since February 2020, and the duration of the build and rollout contract is until August 2023, while the managed services contract is renewable after an initial agreement for 2 years, in witness whereof this certificate is issued to serve and assert that of right. Yours truly, signed Prince Ofosusefa. So this is a certificate from GIFEC, signed by the administrator, saying that there is a contract with ASEN. So what else do you need? And this was submitted to the World Bank as certificate of evidence to assert that there is a contract. So the World Bank and I, as a member of Parliament, we are depending on this certificate, which is a proof of existing contract. And that is what was used to win the $50 million contract. So they have to show us that contract. If they do not show the contract, then it will mean that this certificate, which they issued to the World Bank and to the whole world, because it's addressed to who it may concern, then it means that this is a fraudulent misrepresentation. That they don't have any. But indeed, my checks from my sources within ASEN proves that ASEN has truly received payment. And I have evidence of that.
Well, they've been paid for work done?
Yes, for work done. So ASEN truly is doing work on this matter.
And the payments are coming from the ministry?
Yes.
Because if they were subcontracted, then it is those who contracted them who should be paying them.
Yeah, but that's not what is happening.
Oh, okay.
That's not, yes. So for anybody,
Ghana's Gold, Radio Gold,
to really claim that they don't know anything about ASEN, they are not aware of this contract, and that I am the one who is moving from pillar to post. You know, they clearly are the ones who have been exposed and cannot speak to their own letters. I mean, look, the minister must understand that she is a public official. She is accountable to the Ghanaian people. And these are monies that the Ghanaian people will pay. This is part of our debt stock which has brought us into this economic crisis. This $155 million is a loan. It's not a grant. We are going to pay the China component, the AFSA component. We are going to pay for it. So we need to know exactly what is going on. Parliament did not approve any project to go to ASEN. Why is ASEN executing this project? That's a major violation. And let's remember that people have gone to jail for far lesser infractions. And so the minister cannot think that she can hide behind Twitter and be putting out insults and to be claiming that she has work to do. What work? What has been her impact in that sector? Is it more work for the Nigerian cabal who are looting our resources? Is that the work that she's going to do? And that's the kind of work that we are determined to stop. Enough of the looting, enough of the blatant corruption, enough of the insider dealing. Is not going to be allowed to continue.
And you're taking this to the World Bank itself?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Honorable, $50 million. So what you're doing could deny us that money.
When you say us, is it Ghana or the Nigerian cabal?
Because the government is supposed to operate on our behalf.
When I assess the track record of this Nigerian cabal, they don't get a job done. Look at the Auditor General's report. They do a shabby work. They don't even pay taxes. They mistreat their staff. At the end of the day, really, Ghana doesn't benefit. And you see, if there has to be a contract awarded, let it be awarded transparently. Let it be done with due process. This business of single sourcing, no procurement approval, insider dealings, cooking everything, telling other entities that if you want to stand a chance, then come and partner with Ascent. I mean, the corruption is just putrefying. We can't allow it to continue. So I'm never convinced that this is money coming to Ghana anyway, that the Ghanaian people are going to get value for money. So if it is cancelled, all the better.
Anyway, so we'll be looking forward to, because I am waiting, I'm guessing you'll be sharing with us, if the minister continues, the proof of payments that have been received by Ascent Digital.
Oh, definitely. You know, I love to serialize. You know, if I put out all the documents I had initially, I would not have received these kinds of responses. You know, I thought that by now the MPP would know how I operate. You know, I enjoy baiting them and getting them to put out their lies. They are full of lies, you know. So the minister was pretending that she's never heard of Ascent Digital. Ben Gifford also claims that they do not recall. Now, let's see, with all the documents that we have put out, let's see what the new stories will be. So, don't worry at all, Sana. We haven't put out everything in our arsenals. We enjoy baiting them, and once they and you know, lies are like that. When you tell the first lie, you have to keep telling many lies. But just like the National Cathedral, just like the presidential jet travels, the luxury travels, just like the Oslo Chancery scandal, we always do our homework, and at the end of the day, the truth will be vindicated. So let's see how they end up in this matter.
Like I said, I was going to conclude on Ano, but then I recall that last Friday you were one of a couple of MPs from the minority side who turning up at Buffer's talk to solidarize with the suppliers who had been there for days, asking for monies to be paid to them. I was wondering why that particular event attracted the attention of the minority. Why was it so important to you? And did you achieve anything with what you did last Friday?
Certainly, it was a very important exercise. Remember that the news was all over the place. We had seen footage which was really heartbreaking. Women crying, wailing, rolling on the floor, saying they cannot go home. Their creditors are chasing them. They are contemplating suicide and all of that. And we did raise the matter on the floor that the three ministers of finance, Agric and Education, must be summoned before the House this week to have them account and give the House assurances on how to resolve the crisis. Look, it's awful to have our mothers, senior citizens, go through that. And you remember that they were sleeping in the open. They are picketing over multiple days. They are at the mercy of the vagaries of the weather. The video I saw, they were saying that they've even contracted diseases, mosquito bites. You know, they don't even have a place to shower and all of that. You don't want any human being. Even animals cannot, you know, live under those conditions. So that's why we raised it. I remember that as this picketing is going on, our children too are starving in the schools. We are told that government owes them in excess of 270 million Ghana cedis. And this was the fourth day of picketing, and the matter had not been resolved. So we decided, the minority decided that we will go, after we raised the matter in Parliament, and the Speaker thankfully ruled in our favor that the three ministers should appear, we decided that we shouldn't just be armchair parliamentarians. We should get to the field and go speak to the women, speak also to the buffer stock company, and be well informed so that when the ministers appear before us next week, we can ask all the relevant questions. So we went there. We also had food, drinks, and some water for the protesters. Considering the fact that they had been there for days, and some of them had not prepared to stay that long. But I must place on record that we were totally appalled by the reaction of the Agric minister. When he heard we were there, he decided to storm the place and exhibited very rude and disruptive conduct. I mean, trying to impede the work of members of parliament. I mean, how dare the minister? We are carrying out our constitutional mandate of oversight. We have every right. Don't forget that last year, the speaker himself paid a surprise visit to the buffer stock company. Is a Greek minister saying that Parliament as an institution cannot do its work? That what the speaker did last year was wrong, what we did on Friday was wrong. So we have served notice. I told him in the face that I will bring in his misconduct to the attention of the speaker and the House, so that no minister would dare do that. I mean, how dare you come and try to disrupt a live press conference and be screaming and shouting? And I mean, when you should welcome our visit and see us as stakeholders in the governance architecture, trying to help you resolve matters, you instead of being grateful to us, you rather engage in disruption and total, hooliganistic conduct. So I think apart from the minister's shameful conduct, the visit was very successful. We interacted with the food suppliers. We engaged them. Some of them were still crying profusely. We tried to console them the best that we could and assure them that this matter has come to the attention of Parliament. We have raised it on the floor, and we will keep raising it so that the matter is resolved latest this week, so they can have their monies back. I mean, will you believe, Senator, the minister, in granting an interview after a visit, was even alleging that he was informed the protesters had left and that we asked them to come back to stage that what he called an inorganic protest. I mean, very, very insulting. You see, these people always trivialize issues, trivialize the pain and suffering of others. Look, we interviewed these women. None of them lives close. The women say that some say they are from Ketakrachi, some say they are from Kumasi, some say they are from Boku, some say they are from, I remember here in Savolugu. Look at the distance. There is no way, in the minister's own words, that they left at midnight and that by afternoon, by 1 p.m., we had asked them to come back from their destinations. I mean, is it not possible? Look at the distance from Accra to Boku. You need not less than 10 hours to get there. It's not possible to leave at midnight. Get there by 11 a.m. or midday, and return, because the minority wants to be mischievous and they've asked you to come back, and return by road and be there in less than an hour. I mean, look, these guys, when they even come up with their conspiracy theories and their accusations, they should at least try and make it believable. So we think that the minister's conduct was a needless distraction. What matters really is how we focus on the monies owed to these women, how they should be paid. Because the women are also saying that they've noticed that a new group has been created, and that group is paid in advance. They are pampered, they are treated specially. And they who held the fort, when even there was no money during COVID a year ago, they were always sacrificing. They have been forgotten. And these are small business owners. Their businesses have collapsed. They remember, have families, have children to take care of. So it's a really appalling situation. And the government should very quickly address, look, there is a government that has money for all kinds of needless things. I was reading the PROCUREMENT report a few days ago submitted to Parliament. And will you believe that this government is the most blessed in history? According to PROCUREMENT, they received $1.4 billion from our oil receipts. So they have money. This government that has made so much money. But the question is, what do they use the money for?
And that was where I was coming to, because ultimately you said what you wanted to do is perhaps strengthen the plea of the suppliers. Did you get any assurances that would ensure that they get their monies?
Yeah, the minister told us later on when he calmed down that they were doing validation, that they hope that by, did he say Tuesday, I think, this week, they will begin payments. But don't forget that when it comes to these ministers in these government and assurances, you take them to the bank at your own risk. So we are going to rely heavily on the summons of the Speaker following our request, following the application we made, so that these three ministers can show us concrete evidence as to how they are going to quickly pay. Because look, allowing this to compound, I mean, for 2 years, for 270 million, I mean, we have to see concrete avenues, how they are going to pay, where the money is going to come from, the money being sourced, have they started payments, have they wired transfers, like we did when they had to come give us the NIA assurance about the Ghana cards. That one, because they wanted the NIA to print some more and for them to use it for elections, they came with some assurance, bank transfer, evidence, and all of that. That kind of assurance is what we will be seeking to have when they appear before the House this week.
Okay, we'll be looking forward to that. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
You're welcome.
That's Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Member of Parliament for North Tong, speaking to us on two issues. Now, if you go back to the documents he's published, actually, one of the documents which created a joint venture